With a waterworks system practically completed, but the pressure not as yet turned on, a fire broke out in the business section of Bridgeport about 2 o'clock on Friday the 13th, 1913, that burned fiercely for 5 hours and wiped out 2 entire blocks of the city's best business buildings, doing damage roughly estimated at over $500,000. The fire started in the blacksmith shop, situated on West 2nd Street, and is said to have been due to the igniting of a pan of gasoline. Because of a 6-week drought, everything was dry as tinder, and the city supply of water in the cisterns was decidedly limited, making it impossible for the flames to be fought successfully. As a result, flames spread rapidly and were soon beyond control. Calls for help were sent to both Lawrenceville and Vincennes, the former responding by sending 2 chemical engines and other firefighting equipment, by which the blaze was finally brought under control and the town saved from utter destruction. The only other method of fighting the fire was with fire brigades, which were of little avail, and with dynamite, which was used to blow up several of the buildings in the path of the fire in the hope of preventing a more general spread of the flames. From the starting point in the blacksmith shop, the fire leaped from building to building, destroying the buildings along Olive Street and up to the handsome new stone building of the Bridgeport Bank at the corner of Main Street, leaping around this building temporarily and destroying the adjoining buildings on Main. Then sweeping along Main Street, destroying everything in its path until the B&O Southwest tracks were reached at the other end of the block. The flame then spread along the railroad track and back on the other side of the block to the starting point, crossing the street to the B&O Southwest Railroad Freight House, and continuing along the opposite side of Main Street and throughout the remainder of that block. In the meantime, the Bridgeport State Bank, which had been temporarily missed by the fire, caught fire from the intense heat around it, and the interior of the structure was gutted, the blackened and crumbling stone wall of the handsome new structure alone remaining. When it appeared that the Bridgeport State Bank was in danger, the books and funds of the bank were carried out and taken over to the banking house. But as the fire crept closer to the structure, the funds were placed in an auto and conveyed to Vincennes. There, they were placed in the Second National Bank for safekeeping. Later, they were returned, and the bank arranged to be open for business at the usual Saturday morning hours in a building opposite their former banking house. The fire raged fiercely from 2 o'clock until after 6 in the evening, and a total of 18 buildings were destroyed. Most were businesses, plus the handsome new residence and office of Dr. C.M. Lewis. Other buildings caught fire from flying sparks and were damaged. At one point, the large frame double-deck porch in front of the Jefferson Hotel caught fire and threatened to spread to the interior of the hotel, which would have meant the spread of the flames to another important business block. But with the assistance of the Lawrenceville fire equipment, the fire was checked after the porch had been destroyed and the plate glass windows in the hotel had been broken out by the heat. The residential building next door also caught fire, but the blaze was extinguished. While the fire was still burning at 6 p.m., it was practically under control, and no further spread occurred. As the fire leaped from building to building, a great deal of stock was carried out of the business houses and placed in an open lot. But after the workers had gone to all of this trouble to save as much property as possible, the goods that had been saved caught fire from flying sparks, and most of them were destroyed. When the fire got beyond the control of Bridgeport citizens, calls were sent to other nearby cities for help. Hundreds flocked to the city from Vincennes, Lawrenceville, and the surrounding territory. Many of these visitors rendered help finally mastering the blaze. The visitors, as well as the citizens, were fearful that the whole town would be destroyed. Special assistance was rendered by the Lawrenceville business people. In addition to the chemical engines sent by the Lawrenceville Fire Department, the Central and Indian Refining Company sent tank wagons of water and chemicals, as well as other firefighting equipment. The Lawrenceville Auto Company sent 12 of their fire extinguishers, and the Maxwell Auto Company sent several fire extinguishers and equipment. The fire was the worst in the history of Bridgeport. Jacob S. Spiker of Vincennes, the engineer in charge of installing the waterworks system in Bridgeport, said the water plant was practically completed and that the city would have had ample fire protection in just a few weeks. The water for Bridgeport was to be furnished from the Lawrenceville Water Company. The water main between Lawrenceville and Bridgeport had already been laid. In addition, about 3 miles of pipes in the city of Bridgeport had been completed and 14 fire hydrants set. The pipe layers were actually within a couple of blocks of where Friday's fire occurred. While the main water lines were to be completed within a week or two, the standpipe or water tower, which would hold 150,000 gallons of water, was not yet completed and would not have been for another 6 weeks. Despite the lack of water, the residents and surrounding communities saved the town.